Hello, friends. Um, Welcome back again to Fifth Road Spirit. Today I'm bringing you um, what I did not, well, let's put it this way. I'm welcoming Libra season in this reading. Before I started to include posts with um, astrology and how it relates to the tarot before I got into the reading for the week. And because I started working with the moon first and specifically with the dark goddess, I have come to see that the the astrology with tarot and the readings themselves are starting to get a little convoluted. So essentially what I'm going to do today and probably from this point on is welcome the season. Um, welcome the season. Um, and then also, make sure that I'm including, all these seasonal attributes and, when the sun changes signs. So, right now, basically, we're in the season of Libra, but we've also had yesterday. I actually thought it was September 23rd, but it was the 22nd that we welcomed the change of season. In pagan culture, it is called Maban. Let me go ahead and get myself prepared. As you can see, I have my Crone card here. I have my love or heart chakra candle. That's being lit for Libra season. We could all use a bit more love. And I'm also going to light this dark candle again. And again, it's welcoming the autumn season, welcoming the darkness of the year. And we'll get into that a little bit. Okay, so some notes. Let me go ahead and start with let's go ahead and start with the notes. And as I go along, I will pull out some cards, my helper cards, to give you an idea of how I have been looking at this. Because I just think it's just interesting to reference in that way. So as you can see, I have a lot of notes, like 1, 2, 3 pages of notes. So let's start off with the sun in Libra. The sun is represented by its own card. And again, I use the major arcana cards because the major arcana is considered a theme. Actually, before we even get started, let me go ahead and set up a sacred space. Ring my bell just to create and set the space and intention. Okay, there we go. All right, now I feel better. So on September 22nd, the sun entered Libra, and that was also the beginning of the autumn equinox. So basically, yesterday there were equal parts sun and equal parts dark, or night, equal parts day and equal parts night. So the sun being in Libra, it's very interesting because the sun, yes, the sun is there's day, but Libra is also represented by the scales of justice. But let me go ahead and get these cards out. Where are you, sun? Where did they go? Uh-oh, I must have lodged them in a book or something. Okay, double check. Huh. Okay, they must be lodged in a book somewhere. But the sun is represented by the sun card. Oh, here it is. Sun and Libra. There we go. Okay. So because the sun is in Libra, I look at it this way. I read, the sun is now in justice. That's what's being highlighted. So justice or clarity is being brought to light or to the day. An alternative view of justice an alternative view could be the view of justice in both the light and the dark together. So again, an idea of clarity on both the light and the dark as one, the truth, or at least clarity, right? So Libra season begins on the equinox, which was yesterday. In the northern hemisphere, it's in usually September 22nd or 23rd. And again, it's equal parts light and dark on that day. Libra is an air sign. It's considered masculine. Libra is ruled by Venus, the Empress, and is visually represented. So Libra is ruled by the Empress card, or Venus. And of course, that is about, nothing comes through royalty except through the Empress. This is about birth, fertility, and the earth. Could be about creativity or being a container for difficult experiences, or we could be looking at early attachment experiences. So Libra is visually represented by scales, which can be, which can be changed either way by the weight of a feather. So it doesn't take much for those scales to move. I could take something as light as this card, or against the stone, and then put maybe another card on top of the card, and it just depends. Could be the weight of a feather that does that. So additionally, let's talk about the autumn equinox, Laban, or the autumn equinox. It's welcoming basically the darkness of the year. If we think about the year as in the terms of the triple goddess, the beginning of the year would be the Virgin, the middle of the year would be, the summer would be the Mother. And now that we come to the end of the year, we are in the season of the Crone. So this is about welcoming, and this is from Juliet Diaz's Witchery Embrace the Witch Within book. This is about aging, death, the spirit world, and a second harvest. And again, we are welcoming the season of the Crone. We are welcoming essentially the dark goddess. And, a lot of times hearing this kind of stuff can be very, can be hard to hear. But that is the Crone's way. She is wise. She is bringing you truth that you may not want to hear, but eventually you will understand, and you will laugh anyway. So again, now I also think of the Crone as the dark goddess, and it's now the season that we are in where we acknowledge transformations, endings, and the wisdom of stepping into the unknown. So you might want to consider performing a ritual of descent, or one of releasing that is has a character that is similar to the story of Demeter, Persephone, and Hecate. And if you don't know this story, essentially Persephone was kidnapped by the god of the underworld, Hades, taken there. And, Demeter, her mother, was going wild looking for her, and this also indicates the mother-daughter relationship, like on a higher level. But Demeter was going crazy looking for her daughter. And Hecate, who is also considered, she can traverse the underworld and the upper world, but she saw the kidnapping, and Demeter came to her and said, "Did you see?" Or something like that, where Hecate essentially said, "I saw it, I know where she is." And so Demeter um, left she let the upper world get go into this barren season because she was looking for Persephone. And so when she found Persephone, essentially the deal was Persephone could come back, but if she ate anything, the number of items that she ate is the number of months that she had to be in the underworld per year. So it turns out Persephone, she didn't want to eat anything because she wasn't hungry, but she came to be hungry because she was there so long. She ate six pomegranate seeds. And so because she ate six pomegranate seeds, you know, basically she she's able to come back to the upper world with Demeter to be with her mother again. But because she ate the six pomegranate seeds, she now has to go back to the underworld 6 months out of the year. So that's the story of Demeter, Persephone, or Hecate. And Hecate. Um, of course, Demeter, if we look at this as in a triple goddess sense, Demeter represents the mother, the middle of the year. Persephone represents the virgin, and Hecate represents the crone. So we are going into crone season. And if we think about this, kind of correlating with our moon, right? We're looking at going into this we're holding this space for darkness. And actually, the reading that I did for the new moon Virgo was kind of spot on for this holding of this liminal space. So if you wanted to, definitely do a ritual for the crone. Alternatively, you could also consider building an altar to autumn in your home. Welcome the change and transition with gratitude and wisdom. That also will honor the crone, the wisdom of the season. Juliet Diaz has a lot of spells that you can do. Some altar changes, and I'm just going to include a few. I recommend buying the book. Symbols for your altar, you can put pine cones, acorns, apples, garlands, some colors to think about: red, maroon, orange, brown. Herbs that you can put on your altar: honeysuckle, marigold, and of course pine, oak. For incense, you can light some cinnamon, myrrh, sweetgrass, or patchouli. For crystals, if you have crystals and want to use them, you can use yellow agate, lapis lazuli, carnelian, or sapphire. Yeah, and what you want to do is just enjoy your autumn. Get outside, get creative, have fun, connect to Mother Earth. But again, I highly recommend buying Juliet's book. And it has a lot of information on connecting with the earth and connecting with the wisdom, literally, of Hecate. Hecate represents this idea of being a witch, because she basically is the original witch, Hecate. So definitely look into purchasing Juliet's book to read more about that and connect with your witch within. Okay, I wanted to read a little bit about Persephone. Well, no, I wanted to read a little bit about Crone from the Mysteries of the Dark Moon, the healing power of the Dark Goddess. Because we are entering the Dark Goddess phase, a lot of these still talk about the same thing that we're talking about with the lunar Dark Goddess. They're one and the same, but this book is specific to the moon. However, okay, so one of the things that we talk about when we talk about the Crone season is the change of life for women in our bodies. And yes, I'm specifically speaking to women in this particular sense because I'm talking about menopause. But if you are you can go into a crone phase when you experience any kind of transition or change in your life. Anytime, when you find that your kids no longer need you, or you've maybe you've gone through a divorce, or maybe you're now actually, not because of any reason, but you are now on your own to create your own life and your own freedom. That is a celebration of the crone in a woman's body. Sometimes it shows up, biologically. Sometimes it shows up during menopause. And it's interesting, this little section. Our culture is generally ignorant. It says menopause is a crucial stage in a woman's psychic maturation. Our culture is generally ignorant of this fact. Our notion of ideal femininity is linked with sexual procreativity, and menopause is treated as the end of a woman's sexual identity. Viewed as sexually undesirable, she is often passed over by others for the younger woman. This rejection occurs at a time when her sex drive often increases. Her role as mother and sexual mate have been fulfilled. Society now discounts her as a burden. The menopausal woman, as crone, is mocked, cast off, ignored, shut away, fired, divorced, and abandoned. It is no wonder that a woman confronts this stage of her life with trepidation and fear. She feels emotionally despairing, irritable, and depressed. She can be overcome with shame, anger, and disgust at herself as her body begins to show the changes that lead to her ostracism by society. Some studies indicate that women who have primarily identified themselves with mothering their children or partners experience the greatest difficulty in adjusting to the physiological and psychological demands that the rite of menopause brings into this third stage of a woman's life. In our attempt to revision the dark, how can we reclaim the dark moon, crone goddess's gifts of menopause? Anthropologist Margaret Mead is reported to have said that the greatest creative force in the world is a menopausal woman with zest. The purpose of a woman's life does not end with her childbearing years. There is another one-third of the potentiality of the feminine nature that resides in the waning dark phase of the season of a woman's life cycle. If she is aware of the myriad of opportunities that lie waiting for her in the dark, she can come into her own during the postmenopausal years of her life. She can harvest and assimilate her crop of wisdom, symbolically found in her retained menstrual blood. And this, again, so this is a time of freedom in this transition. We are, and I definitely mean we, whatever transition that we are going through as we go into the fall and into the autumn, when we let go of childish things, right? I don't know, I sometimes reference the Bible, but if we release childish things, we are offered this opportunity to expand and grow in wisdom, knowing that, as again, the reading on this past Sunday, I talked about being a whole person. We are able to connect with all sides of ourselves and accept all those sides of ourselves. We're able to contain a space, right, in ourselves for balance. And that is what the Libra season is bringing, is that balance internally. We're shining the light on our internal balance. Okay, so moving on, I have three more things. Mercury in Libra. So Mercury is represented by the Magician card. Let's see, where are you, Magician? Magician. And Mercury is in Libra. So we'll pull the Libra card out again. So now we have the Magician and the Justice card. And this is, to me, I feel like this is a little bit about like really big change. However, Mercury is going in retrograde. So let's talk about it. The Magician is most often identified with the divine masculine. So there are a lot of other YouTube channels that talk about divine masculine, divine feminine. But in the tarot, the Magician card is the first card. It is a masculine card. And of course, the Libra as the Justice card is a masculine energy. So, the divine masculine is often thought of as the higher level masculine. But then it's like, at a spiritual level, we are creating duality. And there's no duality on the spiritual plane. However, that being said, this could be this pairing could be power being brought to balance if we consider Mercury retrograde as the Magician in reverse. And of course, I don't know if you all know, but I don't read reversals on my weekly readings. But that's not to say that I don't read reversals at all. So if we think about Mercury retrograde as the Magician in reverse, this could either be an illusion or a trick of justice in this time frame. So, I don't want to speak too much on it, but if we think about what's been going on, particularly in the United States, or in courts anywhere, you might be seeing that there is a trick of justice right now. So Mercury is going retrograde on October 14th, and it won't come out of that retrograde until November 3rd. And as we all know, in the United States, November 3rd is the day of election, very important election. So, anywho, I'm going to move on. But Mercury in retrograde, again, this could be, for example, when I say an illusion or a trick of justice in this time frame, an example could be lies, miscommunications, missent emails or unwanted phone calls, or disrupted communication. Now, because this is retrograde in Libra, there is still going to be a balance there. Someone is going to try to trick, and then it's going to be righted again. That's how I see it. Or it could definitely just be a trick of justice and nobody tries to fix it. But I feel like either all the tricks of justice or the illusions are going to be balanced. But. So for every action, there is a counteraction, right? For every cause, there is an effect. And that's what Libra season and Mercury being retrograde in Libra might bring us. Or understanding that the illusions that we have been presented with, are a culmination of past events and experiences. So there's that. And we're currently in the shadow period. So even though it is September 23rd, Mercury, we're kind of getting an idea of what we could be seeing once Mercury fully goes direct on October 14th. You could be seeing little things here and there of like misunderstandings that are, instantly righted, or maybe people even oddly find compassion during this time, find empathy during this time. So next we have Mars in Aries. Mars is represented by the Tower card in tarot, and the Emperor represents Aries. So again, these are my helper cards, and this is how I kind of work through this astrology and tarot. Excuse me. So the Tower by itself is an upheaval or an extreme situation, things that happen to us that upend our lives for the better. If we think of Mars retrograde as the Tower in reverse, it's the same but to a lesser degree, right? The upending is not as drastic, or the Tower is in your control, something that is internal and not external. So Aries, right, is represented by the Emperor in tarot. And the Emperor is about father figures, government leaders, structures, or laws. Combined, right? Tower in reverse. Again, if I put the Tower in reverse and mark that as being retrograde, right? Combined, we could be seeing an illusion of government or laws destroyed to a lesser degree. Or it could be that we experience the feminine aspect of God internally. And I think a lot of times, Aries is about outward action, and the Tower is about, something that happens outside of us. So this is all kind of pointing to it being more on the internal side. Internally, we could be understanding that we were under an illusion, or internally, we could be experiencing the release of the feminine aspect of God. Um, so it's like going through a destruction of the ego, but like on like a diet. Like, how there's Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi. It's diet ego destruction. Um, yeah, and so the question is, how is our inner guidance hearing the divine message? Okay, let's see. So Mars in Aries went retrograde on September 9th, and it goes direct on November 13th, about 10 days after the election. So once we come out of that Tower, once it kind of rights itself back up, there could be an external upheaval that comes out of that. Ooh, I don't know. I'm just looking at what the cards are saying. So don't shoot the messenger. All right. So next up, where are we? We're at about 27 minutes, 28 minutes. So I'll keep this as quick as possible. So Jupiter is in Capricorn, Jupiter being represented by the Wheel of Fortune in tarot, and Capricorn being the devil. And there we go. All right. So Jupiter in Capricorn was in retrograde, and it came out of retrograde it went direct, or came out of retrograde on September 12th. So Jupiter is expansive. Jupiter is an expansive planet, or is a planet that is about expansion. To expand is to require change. For many, change is an unwelcome guest. When honestly, quite honestly, it should be a welcome guest. And a friend of mine reminded me of a poem that Rumi had about a guest. I will link it below. But let's continue. So for many, change is an unwelcome guest. There is an awakening here, one way or the other. Change is coming. Is your house ready for that change, right? In Capricorn, or the devil, this is changing attachments to toxic situations and things that we swore an oath to. So change is coming to an oath. We can be committed to it if we understand the core truth. But Jupiter makes no promises. It just asks you to hold on to the truth of the wheel. So as we move into Libra season now, the Justice card comes into play here, right? just consider that the Justice card comes into play with the Wheel of Fortune, Devil, and now Justice, right? The core, essentially, our core truth is being tested. Can we stay the path when we are presented with two choices? Can we stay the path? What is it going to take to stay the path of our commitment to our core truth, right? And of course, if we look at it too, the Wheel of Fortune card is Jupiter, right? And the Justice card is 11. Wheel of Fortune 10, Justice 11. So how can we, is the Wheel of Fortune keeping its eye toward justice while in the midst of this, either we're creating something new, right? Or we're taking a new path, or we are recommitting ourselves to staying the path. It is what it is. And I actually posted something about a dream that I had. I put it back in my stories. As I was making my notes, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this could go either way. We're just kind of sitting in the audience. As a reader, I'm kind of sitting in the audience and just watching this play out. Of course, I have my own biases, yes, and I try to keep them out of my readings, but of course, I'm human, right? But I'm in the audience and I really am cheering, cheering for change, cheering for, if you are already committed to, empathy, committed to justice, keep that commitment. But if you are kind of off of the path, how are you, how are you aligned with that path? Or hopefully you're seeing, you're questioning your commitment to that path, and you're ready to change for something new. And so with that being said, as I was getting ready to come and do this reading, actually I meant to read, let me go ahead and read this one passage. Before I move on, I wanted to, as I was doing my studies, I was like, oh, are you kidding me? So in Tarot Wisdom, Rachel Pollack's Tarot Wisdom book, she talks about the Wheel of Fortune as thinking about it as the year, right? And this is what she's saying. If we think about the king as a year, the king is the year, but the goddess is in the land. In spring and summer, the king is young and healthy, the land fertile. But in autumn and winter, the end of the cycle, the king ages and the land grows barren. To restore a potent partner to the goddess, the people sacrifice the king and choose a successor. Think for a moment of American presidents, how they come into the office fresh and vigorous and leave worn and exhausted. No sacrifice is needed, just an amendment forbidding them to run again. Joseph Maxwell, in his book on the Marseille Tarot, links card 10 astrologically to the Tropic of Capricorn, when the sun reaches the lowest point of the year, the winter solstice. So I thought that was very interesting when we talk about the Wheel of Fortune as being about, when we talk about the Wheel of Fortune, when we talk about what's going on right now in the U.S., wow. We've got essentially the Wheel of Fortune in Capricorn. Wow. But again, if you are like me, sitting, watching the world and hoping for them to make, the right decision. There is no right or wrong, just make a decision for humanity, right? Think about the last time you were faced with new information. Think about the last time you were faced with something that conflicted with, what you had been taught or what you grew up with. We are in the season of autumn. We are in the season of change and transition. This is the time to consider, are my thoughts about, how, how I knew things, how I grew up with things, am I just like towing the line, or am I able and capable to think, um, think outside of, think about my own experience when I was confronted with information? The compassion is the gentleness that you allowed yourself when you learned new information and you made changes to allow for that information. Empathy is being able to see yourself in another person as they go through that level of compassion, finding that level of compassion for themselves. And I think that is, um, pretty much key to this Libra season, moving into Crone season with all this wisdom, and being able to hold, as Hecate did, hold that liminal space for the passage of the Virgin, of Persephone, into the underworld so that she can learn her own truths and her own freedoms. It's hard to give someone that space and that allowance. Even Demeter had that level of, letting her daughter walk that path. And Hecate stepping back and just witnessing it. There's so much wisdom to be had at the end of the year. So I'm going to leave off this reading with reading about the crone. We're going to honor her energy. Wow, the book turned right to it. This is from Kim Krans' Wild Unknown Archetypes card deck. The crone, the witch, the old woman, the sage. The crone has seen it all. Nothing frightens or surprises her. She is the final manifestation in the feminine trifecta of maiden mother crone. In her long life, she's witnessed endless cycles of death, failure, rebirth, conflict, and regeneration, giving her the ability to rise above the world of duality. She laughs at notions of good or bad, right or wrong, as she has seen the earth churning, smoldering, taking life and giving life. The crone energy accepts everything in, devouring beauty and suffering with the same mouth, using their energy to reveal hidden secrets and knowledge. Her energy resides in all of us, though it is feared by most for its power and unconventional relationship with death and the macabre. Awakening the crone is dangerously rich and unapologetically magic. We awaken the crone. We welcome her in. To go deeper, study Dhumavati, Hecate, Baba Yaga, and Lilith. The crone has a difficult time tolerating superficial, petty, day-to-day musings. She moves away from such relationships and seeks a deeper path, even if this means a more solitary life. The crone is the master of letting go and residing in what is. She rejects nothing. The crone is often seen with the crow, smoke, night, and the moon. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me for today's astrology and tarot reading. And I look forward to doing more of these as, of course, as the seasons change, as the sun changes signs, and just see how that grows. And I'm excited for you all to grow with me. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the year. I hope you are celebrating autumn, getting outside, connecting with nature. And I wish you well. Bye.